Thank you for joining us for the second 2025 Small Business Workshop, The Role of Family Business, hosted by Anish, Quenim, and sponsored by Texas Tech Rawls College of Business. While we weren't able to bring our full-day WTX Small Business Summit event to Lubbock this year, we're excited to continue supporting our small business community through this new workshop series. This is the second of 3 sessions, each focused on providing practical tools and resources to help you grow. If you find today's topic helpful, we encourage you to register for the upcoming workshops as well. Anish Quenim is a director of the Alderson and Griffin Center for Family Business and Entrepreneurship at Texas Tech University, where he leads university-wide efforts to support family enterprises through research, education, and strategic programming. In addition to his leadership role, Anish is a faculty member in the Rawls College of Business, where he teaches the university's flagship Family Enterprise course, preparing the next generation of family business successors and entrepreneurial leaders. Anish is also a generational family business successor and currently sits on the advisory board of his family firms. He co-founded Icebreakers JAQ with his family, an organization that focuses on managing conflict and mental health crises of families and businesses. Additionally, Anish also teaches crisis negotiation for managing families in conflict at the National Law University and is credentialed as a family mediator with the Office of Dispute Resolution in Lubbock, Texas, USA.
But it's so nice to see you all here, and truly from the bottom of my heart, welcome to the Rawls College of Business. This is our home, this is where we create, this is where we innovate, and more importantly, this is where we listen to the community. So everything that you're going to hear, everything that I'm going to present is things that I've studied, things that I've experienced as a generational family business successor myself. I also have a story of, humble beginnings and starting small because of a few issues that happened in our family business. So I'm happy to share my story with you and tell you that, I wasn't just given the chair of I wasn't just given the throne in our family business. We had to work really hard for it, and we had to prove ourselves as, successful stories in a small business. But this is going to be our agenda for today. So we're going to start with doing a few introductions so I get to know who's around in the room. Post that, we're going to speak about a few terminologies because you're going to hear me talking a little bit of mumbo jumbo, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So you can ask me questions when we discuss those terminologies. We'll interact with AI, right? AI is our new friend. AI is our new companion. And I'm going to show you how, we can ask certain questions to AI and also use that for our benefits. Then we talk about 2 main lessons today. So this is going to be the lesson which most of you all are going to take back. The first one, understanding roles in a business or in a small business, especially for family, is understanding the system. What is the system that we're dealing with? The second role that we're going to learn today is governance. So all of this sounds like technical terms, but I promise you, by the end of 1 hour, you will have a much better understanding of what I'm trying to say. The first program is an exemplar which we've created at this university. So I'm going to speak to you about how all of these learnings that I'm sharing with you are actually written into a new program that we're building. I will give you a bit of a take-home activity for you to go home and ask some questions to your family or to yourself. And then we can open it up for questions. And then obviously, the only reason I'm eligible to stand here and share this with you is it's because feedback makes me better. So if you like this talk, that would be awesome. If you don't like it, I'd love for you to help me make it better. So the next time I speak, the next audience can enjoy it even more. Okay? All right. All right, guys, my relatable journey in brief, okay? I come from a 4-generation family business. So like y'all, my great-grandfather bought a ranch and didn't know why he invested in it. He just bought it. He's like, that's a really cool thing to buy. And this was the days back in India so we come from a Portuguese Indian family because Goa is where our family originally comes from. And that was a state which was colonized by the Portuguese. So my great-grandfather served on the Portuguese board. And then he said, this is a good investment because this state's going to develop this way. So just buy it. So he bought it. And then my grandfather looked at him saying, maybe we should take what we make on this ranch to the market. So my grandfather got into entrepreneurship and he started taking the produce from the ranch to the market. And then my father got even more ambitious and he said, how about we take it from market to the table? And then we moved into restaurants and hotels and, food. And then my brother got even more ambitious and he said, how about we take it from table to home? So that's when our family now has moved into production and we actually manufacture the foods. But it started as a 4th-generation. But between generation 3 and 4, there was a long drawn dispute because the family had not thought about the next generation. They were not ready to welcome the next generation in. And my relatable journey in brief is my brother and I had to break away from the family business and prove ourselves as small business owners. And just recently, the valuation of our business grew so much that we went and bought out the family business, right? But we bought it with the condition that our relationships are going to be repaired. Because we didn't want to continue broken relationships. We wanted the family to love each other like my great-grandfather would have wanted it. And that's how we all got back. So the small business that we created acquired the main family business, and now it's a bigger business. Okay, so that's my little relatable journey in brief. But we were at the edge when we looked at life and we were like, is this even fair? Why is this even happening to us? Maybe God has a better plan. And then we chased that plan. Okay, so that's my relatable journey. So if you ask me, does this guy just teach? Does he understand? Yes, I've been in the shoes of a small business. I've been in the shoes where I was hoping I would make my first dollar. And I still have that framed. I still have it framed, the first dollar that I made. It was a rupee back home. And it's on the wall. And I look at it and I'm like, man, if I could make that $1, life is possible after that. Okay, so I've been in these shoes before. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you all. But a few terminologies. Yeah, you bet. A few terminologies, all right? Number one, on screen. Like I said, a lot of mumbo jumbo, but I'm going to break it down to a few words. Everybody knows what the meaning of entrepreneurship is? Anyone knows what is the meaning of entrepreneur? Like, whatever you know, it's yes or no. Do we know what's the meaning of entrepreneurship, right? Someone who sets up a business. It could be a profit, non-profit. Someone who's running a show, right? Let's make it really easy. What happens after entrepreneurship is a term called entrepreneurial continuity. So what that means is when an entrepreneur continues their business a little bit longer than they thought they should. We good? So we set up a business, entrepreneurial continuity is we continue that business. We got it? 89% of entrepreneurs fail in the first year of setup, which means only 11% of them move to the second term. Entrepreneurial continuity. We good so far? Entrepreneurship, now we continue. Term number 3, succession. What happens when we continue our business for long enough, right? It's time for us to realize that our time on earth is not permanent, it's temporary. We need to now thinking of how do we pass this forward? We cool so far? Succession. We now have to succeed this business to someone else. Most of the times, that may be family, because as your business is continuing for those number of years, you're getting married, you're possibly getting married again, might be getting married again, and now you have kids, and then your kids may have kids. So you may have people inside the home where you can pass this business on to, or you may find, like he mentioned, another family business who you deal with who might say, you know what, you don't have anyone to take this over, how about we do it, right? Then we move to family business, right? The moment an entrepreneur is successful for long enough and he's ready to pass this business forward, the family shows up most of the time. Okay, you guys are going to find these numbers real soon because we're going to use AI. So I'm not sharing those facts with you yet, but it turns into a family business. The moment it turns into the family business, you have the great ability to create something which I share with my class every single time they graduate. I'm like, if you guys come back to me in 30 years and tell me you did not reach this level, I wear a size 11 shoe. Generational wealth is when you don't think of spending the dollar just for you. You think of creating the money for life that's going to come way after you're gone. Make sense? So it doesn't just start over having a great idea or setting up a business plan or sitting in front of sharks and saying, will you invest in me? Of course I will. How are you going to turn this into a dream for generations to come? That's the question our center asks people. We okay so far with the terms? Anything confusing? Okay, let's go forward. How long does it take for most businesses to be successful? All of the research is showing us that the moment an entrepreneur moves into entrepreneurial continuity and continues her or his business for at least 24 years, They're now ready to turn this into generational wealth. Almost every top company that you see in the world, which is a family business, has lasted for at least 24 years and beyond. Okay? We good so far? The day I joined here, I was so confused with all these terms. I called up my friend who's a professor at Cornell. He teaches the family business class. I'm like, Dr. Daniel Van der Vliet, can you, in the easiest of terms, explain to me what the heck this term means? He's like, it's simple. When an entrepreneur is successful for long enough, it's time for his family to join the business. Easy. Okay? But we're going to think ahead today. We're not going to wait, because there's a problem when we wait, and you're going to see what that problem is. All right. We like our phones. This professor now moves into technology mode. Okay? Let's get ready to use our phones. But here's a question I want you to ask ChatGPT. Now, there's 3 questions we're going to ask. Question number 1. Copy this question. How many businesses in the world are owned by families? Go ahead, sir. Can you be a little loud? Go ahead.
Approximately 70% to 90% of all businesses in the world are family-owned or family-controlled.
70 to 90% of businesses in the world are owned by families or family-controlled. What the heck? What are we dealing with, right? 90% of the global economy in this room right now. What else did that fail? Whoa, so what she's saying is 70% of family businesses that contribute to 90% of businesses worldwide fail. We have a problem, ladies and gentlemen. We get to that slide. Next question for AI. Can you give me a list of 25 famous family-owned businesses that started small? Walmart, H-E-B, Nike. Are you sure? I thought Nike started as a billion. I'm just kidding. What else do we have? IKEA. We got IKEA. What else? S.C. Johnson. What else do we have? Chrysler, BMW. Ford. Oh yeah, 100%. All right. So are you getting what we're dealing with? Right. So sometimes we think that a small business is something that just kind of caters to like a mom and pop shop. But all of these names that they mentioned, we all know who they are, right? Man, did you guys know this before? Like some of this? Is this crazy? Right? Think about it. Look at what we're dealing with, right? Like the next time you feel, why do we need our family in business? They all have their family in business. And they all exist. And they're all thriving. But they had challenges. And for the rest of this talk, I'm going to talk to you about the 2 things they did to take care of these challenges. Okay? Some of the names that you mentioned, I actually know these families personally. I literally know, and it's amazing. When I get to speak with them, I had a great privilege of meeting the Agnelli family that owns Ferrari and Fiat. That gentleman had a coffee with me. The one advice he gave me? If you want to succeed, stay humble. All right? So these are some things I want you to keep in mind. All right? There's so many facts out there of family businesses, but I'd like for you to keep these 4 things in mind. Like you mentioned, ma'am. Thank you. 70% of businesses in the US, so this is America now, right? We said 70 to 90%, sir. Globally, America is 70%. Okay, so America currently stands at 70% of businesses in the US are family owned. There's a fact which is not shown over here, which I'm going to share with you. Do you know how many startup entrepreneurs in small businesses have an involvement of family? 76%. So almost 8 out of 10 small businesses that you meet have family involved in their business in some way. All right? Second fact. They account for a significant portion of the GDP, but here's why the center was built at the Rawls College of Business. Because like Ms. Cash mentioned, young kids need to understand that there's 3 outcomes of college. We added the 4th. The first outcome is, what do you do after your degree? You tell me. You get a job, right? It's the second outcome. You start a business. What's the third outcome? Go back to school, right? Absolutely. You continue education. We've added the 4th. The 4th one, which is missing in every K to 12 and every college student's life, heart, and mind. Go back home and join mom and dad. It's called succession. You ask any college kid today, are you excited about that? No. Of the students that are in my class on the first day, 5% of students say they're excited about going back and joining mom and dad. You know how many go back on the last day? 100. 100% of these students go back to join mom and dad. Because in between 4 months, that's 1 semester, they ask me questions that they've hesitated to ask mom and dad. How much will you pay me? Mom and dad suck, I can't work with them. Mom has tantrums. Dad's disorganized. You know what mom and dad tell me? The same thing about the kids. So we created a really cool event at the Ross College called Generational Perspectives, where we bring both of them in the room to start World War III. But by the end of the event, the kids and the parents leave with something called the Generational Perspective Bridge Agreement, where they've come to terms on how they can work with each other, which is the toolkit for succession eventually. Okay? But why I'm mentioning this to you is, I only have one class that I teach in family business. All the other students across Texas Tech and other universities are still looking out for jobs, right? 78% chance that they will be hired by. Woohoo! So do you need to know how a family business functions? Yeah. So that's why this is significant. The next, like she mentioned, only 30% survive into the second generation. Do you know how many go to the fourth? Half that. Do you know how many go to the fifth and sixth? Half, 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 and 0. Okay? But all of those names that you mentioned to me, your BMWs, your Louis Vuitton, your Ralph Lauren, do you think they're first generation successes? None of them are first generation successes. They are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My class had the great privilege of dealing with a family business last semester as part of their case study. Do you know how many generations that family business was? 19. The first thing I did when I spoke with the family was I was like, you guys are amazing. If you've kept it together for 19 generations, no one deserves to tell their story apart from you. Isn't that amazing? 19 generations. And you know why they wanted me to have this as my case study? It's because they're like, we've got this right, but we're sure we don't know everything. Tell us how we can continue for 19 more. That's what great families do, right? They're humble. Okay? Last point. One of the reasons it doesn't continue to the next generation is because family conflicts is the biggest issue. This guy, 15 years, me and my cousins were fighting with the generation above us. Literally all it took was a 5-minute cup of coffee with my dad and his brother, keeping all of those egos outside the door. But we identified what the problem is. We owned up to our mistakes. We worked together as a family, but it took 5 minutes to resolve, right? So when she explained my credentials, Kelly, and she says, I'm a family mediator with the Lubbock County. When she mentions I teach at law school, I teach family mediation, it's because I don't want families to reach the edge. I want them to learn what we're sharing here today so that they can avoid the edge. Okay? Let's move forward real quickly. Welcome to a manageable world problem. I do not want to call this a problem. I want to call this a manageable world problem. So what can we, as small businesses, do at the onset to avoid a manageable world problem, right? We're going to do 3 things. First thing is we're going to understand why family roles matter in any business, okay? The second thing we're going to do is simple ways to prevent conflict and encourage continuity. And then the third thing we're going to do is how governance, not government, governance, applies even if you're just getting started. Some of you might be in the room and say, we're a really small business, or we're just about getting started. We just have an idea. Congratulations, now's the time to think about it. We just had a baby. He's 8 months and 3 weeks old. When he was 2 months in my wife's womb, my brother asked me, can I write him into our family business succession plan? I'm like, are you drunk? He's like, no, we need to plan ahead today because we don't want the next generation to have the struggles you and I had for 15 years, right? So the fact that you're in this room today trying to understand the role of family in your small business, congratulations, that's a win for you already. Okay, let's go forward. The Alderson and Griffin Center, where I just took over as the director, has a new vision. And this is what we're going to try and do, okay? So I promise you that while you all continue to build your businesses, we at the Alderson and Griffin Center are going to continue to get your kids excited to come back home. That's our promise to you. Inspiring generations through legacy continuity, the Alderson and Griffin Center envisions a future where the next generation of family business leaders is equipped, inspired, and eager to return home to lead with purpose. We aim to be the premier destinations where successors are prepared for leadership and outgoing generations are supported in navigating transitions. We cannot just get kids excited to go back home if we don't show mom and dad how to open the doors for them. Do you agree? 2 doors have to open, right? So that's what we're doing. 90% of our focus is shifting the mindset that going back to join your family business, if not right after college, someday. A lot of family businesses like for their kids to go get experience somewhere, and that's awesome. But the dream should be to come back home. So that's what we're trying to add. But we also want to tell mom and dad that, hey, this is the reason why they don't want to come back home. This is the reasons why they may never consider you as a support for a business helping hand. So we're trying to do 2 things, okay? But there's 2 lessons I want you to remember for the role of families in small business. Here's the first one. Systems. The moment you're dealing with family, you're dealing with something called a system. Another word for a system is you're dealing with a family system. Okay? You either get it or you don't. But if you want to succeed, you've got to get it. I'm going to tell you why. The goal, this is the first slide I show my class every time we start, apart from saying no phones allowed. But this is the first slide I showed. The goal is family business, right? Entrepreneur, entrepreneurial continuity, succession, family business, generational wealth. So the goal is family business. See what I've done in the second one. I've played with that word. I've added something which literally separates those 2 words. The path is understanding family, and the path is also understanding business, and then taking off those 2 little hanging things in the middle. This is what breaks 70% of businesses. Just those 2 things which are hanging break 70% of business. Isn't it crazy? And the moment you understand both separately, you take those off, and it turns into a family business. So for role number 1, I'm not going to tell you how to run your business because you guys know it way better than me. But I'm going to help you how to understand your family a little better. Okay? So how do you set up a great small business that does super well? This table over here is amazing. They'll guide you. How do you set up a family that helps you succeed in business and turn into the Ferraris and turn into the Versaces and turn into all of those amazing brands like the Walmarts and the HEBs? Let's see how it's done. What do you see on screen? Middle is a really cool sports car, right? I wouldn't dare to sit in this because I won't be able to get out of it. But what happens if 33 is missing? It's the smallest little part in this whole amazing sports car. What happens if 33 goes missing? There's something that could eventually happen, right? So if 33 goes missing, for all of you automobile engineers over here, I completely apologize. I know nothing about cars. I'm just looking at pictures, all right? If a small part goes missing, the car may eventually break down, right? What if 35 and 41 go missing, big parts? The car may not even move, right? But do you believe that we also need to take care of 33 while we're taking care of 41? Because 33 can turn into a 41, right? This is the family system we're dealing with. The first step you want to do when you go back home is break down your car and understand what are the parts you're dealing with in your family. There are some parts that you think may never have a role. All it takes is one rotten apple to spoil the bunch. But you've got to identify all of the apples in the bunch. Okay? It's just a really quick picture, which I show my class. Let's move into a bit of theory. There was a research done, and I know a lot of people get scared when you use the word research. So I hid the research and I added the pictures. Okay? Look at this. On the top it says enterprise, the Mobius strip. Okay? If you are a family that does not have family involved in the business, most of us have a business here, right? But not all of us have a family in business here, right? The plan is to someday involve them. But let's get it to both of you in the room. If you have a business, but you don't have family, you're still dealing with two things. Number one, if you have a family, you got to put in input, so you get output. What is the input you put into a family so you get a favorable output? Most of the time. For me, it's taking my wife out on a date once a week. That's my input. It's me taking off twice a week so I can stay with my baby boy as he's growing up. That's my input. What's your input? It's different for everyone, right? Family may need time, family may need availability. Some of them may like gifts, I don't know, right? There's different types of input. But the outcome of input and output in a family system is relations. You look on the left side, it says relational, is relations. Let's move to the right. What is the input and output in a business that tells you, hey, this is successful? Money, right? So the input is effort, time, investment, correct? Studying the sales, studying the trends, studying the market. The output is transactional. You see this on screen, right? So you have relational, you have transactional. This is an independent system. This functions one way, this functions the other way. What happens in a family business? Any guesses? It turns into a dependent system. This is the easiest way for me to explain this research to you. My brother looks at me one fine day and he says, but I get this message on my phone and he's like, we need to look at our numbers, right? Sometimes it's super hard for you to separate your relational and your transactional interactions when you're in a family that's running a business. I promise you, it is super hard, but this is the only thing that takes us forward. Okay? Because if you are running a small business, it is going to turn into a business where your family is involved. But if you don't separate the two systems, 70% of us are going to fail. Because like I said, going back to the research, it's showing us the reason family businesses are not going forward is because of family conflict, right? But you got to keep in mind that we're dealing with these two systems over here. And the second role, here's what I want you to keep in mind. Do you have any questions about the first one? Does everyone agree that when you're just an entrepreneur, you're dealing with one system? But there's also a correlation. Think about it, right? If you're a small business and you're stressed and you come back home, right? Are you bringing what happens at the workplace to home? Most of the time. If your family agrees or disagrees with you or fights with you, you still go back to work the next day and their signatures don't matter for that business decision. But if you're in a family business and you go back home and you have a fight, try pitching an investment the next day. They'd be like, yeah, but you cut the rose bush yesterday. But that's the best way for me to start this second class on governance. How do we set up this structure, this formal structure, where you can understand the role of family in business? And that structure is called governance. Okay? That structure is called governance. So why talk about family in small business? And this is what governance is going to tell you. Most small businesses are run with family support, whether it's a spouse, a sibling, a child, or in-law, either now or in the future. But mixing family and business can create tension because you have unclear roles, you have unspoken expectations, and you hurt feelings during tough calls. Right? So what governance is going to show you now is how you can take care of this by subtly saying, add it to my calendar. You don't need to be a big company to need structure. You just need some simple habits to protect both the business and the family. Simple habits. I promise you today what I'm speaking about is something that you can relate with. What is family governance? Family governance means having a clear understanding of these things. The first thing, who's involved in the business, right? Do we know? You know, in my class on the final day, I have 2 slides, and I say CEO and CEO. They're like, yeah, but most companies have 1 CEO. I'm like, but all family businesses have 2 CEOs. They're like, you're lying. I said, I am, but there's a twist in that slide. The first CEO is called, what's the abbreviation of a CEO? Chief Executive Officer. In a family business, you'll have a second CEO, the Chief Emotional Officer. In our family business, it's my mom. My brother can't stand me sometimes, he goes to mom. I can't stand my brother sometimes, I go to mom. Does mom tell my brother what I told her? No, because one of us will be on fire or lit on fire, right? So she's the soft spot. She's the emotion control. But it's the role that mom plays that keeps that family business together. In fact, in my PhD dissertation, I'm interviewing the second CEO. And I want to highlight their presence in families because most of the times we don't. We look at the person making money, but who's responsible for helping that person receive the mental strength to make that money? There's another CEO, right? So let's identify this. Who's involved in the business? How are decisions made in the family and the business, right? As you set up a business, as you set up a small business, as you're growing, so is your family. As you're not growing, so is your family not growing. So we need to have these talks, right? We need to understand what are these questions that we can speak with about each other. Third is, what happens if we go wrong or things change, right? Do you think this is a question we can discuss with our family? Think about it. For those of you who are in business making money, sometimes speaking to your better half or to someone who's just your emotional support, you run a business idea past them, right? Don't lie. We all do. We all do. Mom, I'm speaking today in a seminar. Did mom make my slides? No. Did mom open this door? But I need mom to say, son, have a great seminar. What if mom says, yeah. You should be home right now packing more things, right? It will play in my head, right? It doesn't influence the outcome of this presentation directly, but indirectly, it 100% it affects this presentation. So you want to understand what happens if things go wrong or if things change. Number 4, how do relational and transactional models intersect in your home? Your kids are going to have different needs as they grow. Your better half is going to have different needs as you all grow. Your community is going to have different needs as you grow. In most of our religions, it's written that we got to give back, right? We got to protect, we got to take care of our communities. As we grow, we give. As we learn, we teach. As we love, we share, right? It's about making things clear and can be as simple as written roles, rewritten roles, and more roles. The only way you can be together is if you understand what are the roles we're going to play for our success. Let's go forward. Steps to start governance. How do we begin this? How do we understand the role of family in business? Number 1, sit with your family. They might think you're crazy after this presentation, but it starts from there. Talk about roles and expectations. Number 1, is your family involved in the business? If not, how can they be? It's a question we can ask, right? It's a question we can discuss with the family. My class, I told you we have the World War III setup, right? Where older generation and younger generation sit in the room. That's the first question we ask each other. And this was a study done by Cornell, which came out called Courage Questions. Most next generation gets scared to ask these courage questions. Mom, Dad, is there a place for me at the table? Mom, Dad, will you pay me? Mom, Dad, what role can I play? Mom, Dad, do you see my benefit in returning back home? The second question, who takes the family decisions and who takes the business decisions? This is again something you want to outline, all right? The third thing is, how do we involve the next generation in both of the above? So these are 3 things that go into your first family governance structure, which is the role of family in business. Now you may say, my kid's 5 years old and he's 7 years old and 9, so 1 year or 8 months like mine, and he has no direct role in the business. I promise you he does. Because you raise that kid right, you're turning into a 24-year success someday. Don't ever doubt that you'll be successful, please. The day you doubt you're going to be successful is the day you fail. You're going to win. I promise you, you're going to succeed in life. Take care of the other things that are going to support that, because that facilitates your victory. The second step is write down basic rules. Do we have a vision, or do we have a set of commandments for our business? And do any of you all have do you all have a vision statement for your family? 9 out of 10 people who I've spoken to normally don't, including me. Okay? 9 out of 10. A vision statement for your family. Create that with your family today. Ask each other, what should our family be known for? Right? The vision statement that my brother and I have put together is no generation in the future will ever have to worry about conflict. That's our mission statement as a family. And to support that, we have open communication, open meetings, open lines, and open love. I'll share more about you with that someday. But the second thing is, have we discussed what the family legacy and business legacy should be? Right? That's a question you want to again write down and discuss with the family. What should our family be known for going forward? Right? Should we be known for this? Should we be known for that? But at the same time, when you're writing this legacy statement, remember that family businesses do business also from the heart. So involve the heart when you're writing your legacy. The third thing about understanding the role of your family in business is start a habit of check-ins. When do we talk about business and when do we talk about family? Right? If you only check in on, hey, we should go out and have dinner today, when do we talk about business? Right? Like you mentioned, sir, that because I have a space now set on my calendar for my brother, he puts things in the agenda. Versus send me a text just because he woke up at 3 a.m. That's what entrepreneurs do. They don't sleep, right? So versus that text at 3 a.m., that same text goes into the agenda. So when we meet for our family meeting, it's all there. Literally, you wake up 6 hours after wanting to send that text. Has this happened to you before? Think about the Amazon idea, right? We add things to our cart at night and we buy it, and next morning we're like, cancel. Do you remember that? All of us have been there. I was there last night, right? That's pretty much how family communication is sometimes. Just delay it. Put it in a place where we can actually have a dedicated space to talk about. Second is, when do we have family meetings? There are two types of family meetings, informal and formal. Your informal family meetings are where we all go hang out and just chill. We do not talk work. But you know the reason we don't talk work there is because there's a second meeting scheduled on our calendar where we can talk work. Right? If you do one and not the other, they're going to talk work on your holiday. If you only do work and not holiday, they're going to say, why are we just meeting for work when we can go just hang out, right? Okay, so that's the second thing when you add on your family governance is, when do you meet as a family for informal and formal reasons? And then the last thing is, how do we establish open lines of communication? Communication to this gentleman, communication to this lady, their style of communication is completely different. Just because I'm an extrovert, she doesn't have to be an introvert. But she will have a way in which I can connect with her. So understand, what is your family open line of communication? Does son prefer you to text? Does mom prefer you to call? Does dad prefer you to meet him in person? That's how things can move forward. Use that as the icebreaker to reach a place where you can sit in a room and talk. Okay? These are basic things we've seen in family businesses or small businesses where they don't structure these things together, and that leads to conflict in the future. You okay so far? Okay. Not a family business yet, right? If you're not a family business, right, here's a question you can ask yourself in this class today. Even if your family isn't involved now, the plan is for entrepreneurial continuity. Governance helps three things. One, it brings in a spouse or a child gradually. There's two words after that. And fairly. One of the biggest issues family businesses have and they get thrashed about is called the word nepotism. Right? But once you have a governance structure, you have a result on your sheet which you can show. You can show that, have you guys heard of the company, is it called Tiernut Metals or Tiernut Metals? Tiernut, right? Have you heard about that? I heard this gentleman speak the other day and I asked him a question. I said, sir, are you thinking about the role of family in business for the future? He said, my son's 3 years old and he comes to the workplace with me and he looks at me and he says, Dad, is the forklift working today? He doesn't sign any sheets. It doesn't lead to any profit and loss. But it's that involvement of his son at the workplace that makes his son ask him this question. He's like, that for me created the need to understand the role of family in business, right? So bringing in a spouse or child gradually and fairly eventually comes in when you talk about the role of family in business. So you might just be an entrepreneur. You haven't thought about this, but trust me, you can someday. I have 3 quotes printed here. One of the quotes says, a man travels the world in search of what he needs and returns home to find it. By George Moore. Isn't that amazing? We literally go everywhere to look for solutions and we come back home and realize the strength was right there. That inspired me to write the second quote. I take credit for it because Look within before looking beyond is the strength you seek, the strength you see. Right? The strength you seek is the strength you see. One of the biggest reasons family businesses or business people fail when they reach that scale of wanting to expand and grow is they're like, we can't hire someone. We can't afford to hire a team yet. Uncle Joe is really good at doing that too. Let's bring him on board. And he'll do it for half the price because he believes in your family vision. And this story is told in the most beautiful way by the owners of Bahama Bucks. And they're actually written into our class as the next case study for this fall. So my students are working with that family. But this is how that family functioned. They looked within for strength. Number 3, teach the next generation how to work together. There was a consultant from Morgan Stanley, and she would give families an activity to do every Friday. She would put a stick on the table, a small little stick, and say, everyone in the house, pick up that stick and tell me how your week went. And they were all sitting around the table, and that stick would pass around, and kids who were 2 years old and grandfathers who were 80 and 90 years old picked up the stick and spoke about how their week went. Do you know what she was trying to accomplish with that? That everyone has a place at our table. Isn't that amazing? That's a small thing you can do going home today. Just put a stick in the front. Not literally a stick. If you have a child, he might poke himself in the eye. And I realize that because I have a kid. But create a space for everyone. The next, and if you're thinking about hiring a family member in the future, handing the business down, or bringing in a partner, now's the time for you to start a habit of governance. If you haven't yet, and it's okay. We as a family business didn't start this for 4 generations. We realized 4 generations later. The 19-generation family business didn't have a governance structure. And they realized, man, if we put this together, we'll be able to take care of so many things. Because I'll tell you a little bit about that story. The gentleman who took over the family business after 19 generations, he had 9 cousins. And he received the business from his grandfather. So it didn't go to his dad, it came straight to him because his grandfather held on to the chair till he was 97 and he died whilst running the business. But the grandson worked with him for 30 years. And he loved his grandson, so he said, this is for you. So you know what the grandson told me? He said, the reason I want your class to help me is because I feel 8 of my cousins may have felt left out. Can you help me find a solution to get my family together so they understand their role in our business, even if it's not monetary? Why thinking of this early helps? And this is something I want you to reflect on before I head to my last slide. Establishes a place at the table for all. Number 2, clearer conversations around continuity. Number 3, blueprints for the crisis circle. I'm going to explain this to you in a quick minute. Does anyone know what's a crisis circle? There are 3 types of crises that you'll deal with in your life as a small business. One that happens before, one that happens during, and one that happens after. So the way of dealing with a crisis is either proactive, reactive, or rehabilitative. Which one do you think most of us deal with the most? Reactive. That's like almost 97 or 98% of people in business. All right? We want to know proactively how we can take care of this. All right? And then potential to establish a family enterprise, example from class. I had a couple that came to me. They were into catering. Ma'am, they had a food business. Mom and dad doing really well. One of them is a professor at Tech. And they said, and both their daughters were there in the class to take pictures and videos. And my class asked them, so what's the plan for the future? Are the kids taking over the business? One of the daughters is, I'm a criminology major, and the other daughter is like, I'm a dance major. It's like, you think we're going to take that over? They left the class taking over the business because my class created a plan for them. She said, have you realized the amount of people that end up staying incarcerated and not thinking right because they don't eat correctly? Have you realized how many dance competitions would be won if you plan their diets? They both joined the business. Food was served in a different way. All right? And lastly, being proactive never goes to waste. Okay? So these are some questions. Take-home activity for you guys. Take this home today. If you're wondering what to do after this presentation. Number 1, does your family know what you are doing? And vice versa. All right? Ask this question. Does your family know what you're doing? And vice versa. The second question, Have you asked them if they would like to be a part of your plans? The third question, have you genuinely expressed an intent for them to join you or return back home? Fourth question, how will you build a culture where legacy continuity is natural and not forced? And last question, have you considered engaging humans like this who get paid to help you sort out your role of family in the business? Because centers like us at the Rawls College of Business exist for you. Okay? Ask yourself these 5 questions, ask your family these questions, and obviously if you have a question, ask me a question right now. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.